Hello and welcome. My name is Lucas Lyons, and we got a few things to talk about tonight. Okay, first things first, Jesus, Lord, please help me express myself properly in this video in a way that people can receive it and they're receptive to my message. My people, please, Jesus, allow me to express myself properly in this video. And the second thing is, shout out to my people, ADOS, we out here. I know I'm trying to get back in the habit, posting more videos for racial puberty. I am in the beginning stages of founding our second founding year of a school in the South Bronx. As you know, I'm a director of special education services in the South Bronx. We founded a school last year. It'll be our second year. 6th and 7th graders coming in. I can't wait to see my babies. And I also was traveling and went to Vegas for EVO, the world's largest fighting game tournament in the world. And so I was out there for that. Shout out to ADOS who was out there. Had a good time. But now I'm back. And so racial puberty, 15, let's talk about it. Where are you in your racial puberty journey? I know where I am. Like most people, I'm on Reddit, subscribe to a few different channels, and I am on R. Tucker Carlson. It is what it is. It's important to see what the enemy is doing. It's important to see what the other side is doing, see what machinations, what schemes are coming up. And a post came up, a video, short clip of, I guess, this white guy who turned down the wrong street in Connecticut. I didn't know Connecticut got down like that, but Connecticut, and the guess turned into a black neighborhood, wasn't supposed to be there, and he got jumped. So they took his car, got jumped. Horrible, disrespectful, disgusting, disrespectful, the worst. And as you can imagine, this comment section was everything but nigga was said in this comment section. It was just applicable, applying everything to the black community, this one instance. And I had to check myself because I in my racial puberty journey, I know in the past, when I would see something like that, I would say, we got to do better as a people. Let's be honest about it, right? Like, dang, and I would apply it to the whole black community. Every group of people, every complexion of people has a group of malcontents, of thugs, of people that don't abide by human law. I'm not talking about law. I'm just the golden rule, essentially. And that's every community. And so now that I'm in that racial puberty journey, I can look at things like that and not immediately apply it to everyone in the black community, because that doesn't happen. Joey made a great video about this. Shout out to Joey. Made a great video about this, talking about how black people are quick to apply it to the black community and say, we got to do better. We got to do better. But when something happens in the white community, i.e. school shootings, we apply it to that one white child, that one white person, and say something must have been wrong, right? But compare that one video of those black thugs, and let's call it what it is, those black thugs beating up this white man, to the situation with Breonna Taylor. Let's take that case study. How we have actual local, state, federally appointed officials being thugs, malcontents. There's a difference between a civilian, the lowest of the low of the people, jumping, harming, causing physical damage to someone, and then officers of the law falsifying documents. Let's talk about it. So this is from Bloomberg. As you know, charges have come across the 4 officers who were involved in the murder of Breonna Taylor. Right? The DOJ, the Department of Justice, is talking about the search warrant. And the Breonna Taylor's family was saying this back in 2020. Back in 2020 when this happened, they said something was wrong here. They're saying right. They're saying something was wrong. They've been saying this for 2 years now. So another object of the conspiracy, there's a conspiracy to cover up after the shooting, the fact the warrant had been based on information that was false, misleading, stale, and unsupported by probable cause, according to the filings. The family had been saying this. 2 of the officers called, texted, and met each other in person to coordinate their false cover story in an attempt to escape responsibility for their roles in preparing the warrant affidavit that contained false information. I don't expect nothing from thugs on the street pulling into their neighborhood, they beat you up. That's not good. That's not right. But we got officers doing worse things, falsifying information, just to terrorize black people? According to the government, James, this is Joshua James. This is one of the Louisville detective, Joshua James, sent a draft affidavit to fellow detective Kelly Goodlet, claiming he'd confirmed that a person with previous drug-related convictions was receiving packages at Taylor's address. But according to the government, James had already told Goodlet there was no evidence. They already knew there was no evidence. They was just trying to terrorize these black people just cause. And history tells us this is the case, right? Kyle Meany, a sergeant. Now, this ain't no police officer, and a sergeant ain't the highest of the high, but they up there. Kyle Meany, a sergeant who approved the search warrant for Taylor's home, was separately charged with falsely telling the FBI that the warrant had called for no-knock entry because the police department's SWAT unit had asked for it. Prosecutors allege that Meany knew there was no request. There was no request for that. But now they're trying to turn it around like there was a request. They're no longer employed with the police department, but has the damage not already been done? So you compare, like, talk about the racial puberty journey, and then all black people. Yeah, I'm past that. And I want to get to the point where I know it ain't all white people, right? I can't just apply it to all white people because the Jesus in me ain't allowing me to do that. But it's hard. Because history shows a larger general consensus around white people to allow this terrorism to happen on the local, state, and federal level. Right? Don't compare police brutality. Don't compare the corruption of the Justice Department with any groups of people's malcontents beating somebody up. It's just not comparable. It just don't make sense, right? This is from The Insider. 2 Louisville police detectives met in garage. Come on, that's shady. Meeting in garages and agreed to mislead investigators examining the botched raid that resulted in her death. If these officers in charge ain't put in jail and the key thrown under and they brought like maggots, I'm going to say something wrong, or is this the justice system working the way it's supposed to? Louisville police falsified an affidavit used to contain a search warrant for Taylor's home in violation of civil rights laws. Falsification of information, making stuff up just for the terrorism of black people, right? Former Detective Joshua James and Detective Kelly Goodlet later took steps to cover up their falsification of the affidavit as investigators scrutinized the shooting. Meeting in garages, talking about what we're going to do to cover this up. Shit. Prosecutor said Brett Hankinson, federal prosecutor Brett Hankinson, former Louisville police detective, supposed to serve and protect. Hankinson fired 10 shots through the bedroom window and sliding glass door, both of which were covered with blinds and curtains. We won't talk about the Second Amendment, but you don't want to apply that to black people. Don't do the no-knock in this day and age. When you're doing no-knock warrants, those two things seem incongruous. They don't correspond with one another. How you want to push for no-knock warrants and also say everyone has the right to carry a gun. If somebody knocking on your door, busting in, you don't know who coming in, and you got a gun, and you know you live in America, protect yourself. So those two things, not for black people, apparently. A 4th Louisville police officer, Sergeant Kyle Meany, was charged with preparing and approving a false affidavit to obtain a warrant to search Taylor's home. The family, again, was saying this back in October 2020. Contained false and misleading statements, omitted significant facts, and relied upon stale information. Now, I don't want to stay on this too long. This is the first part of Racial Puberty 15, but I wanted to illuminate the fact that we look at individual black perpetrators. And yes, that's horrible. And as black people, as ADOS, we need to look at ourselves, as we have been doing, and call each other out on that. And that's what we do here. Not apply it to all the whole black population. I know that was an issue of mine as ADOS. And damn, black people, ADOS. And then I realized that doesn't happen with white people. Why is that? Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that to yourself, Lucas? Why are you applying it when it's a black person, but not applying it when it's a white person? And I know why that is, right? It's that mentality of white supremacy, thinking white people can do no wrong, thinking it's just that one white person, and then placing that on black people, right? That menticide Bobby E. Wright was talking about, right? The deliberate destruction of one's mind. And so I just wanted to highlight this compared to the fact that This is more systemic. This is more cultural, it seems like, for whole institutions to be corrupted versus one or two people beating somebody up. And you really got to compare those wholesale corruption cases to here and there crime in the Black community. All right, something to keep in mind. I'll also have links in the description below. Make sure you understand what's going on with Breonna Taylor. Misleading information, saying he didn't intentionally mislead the judge, but he said he could have worded it differently. I'm going to say this right now. White people, when you, especially in the Justice Department, you got to deal with ADOS in it with a different mindset. I got to word it differently. You got to approach that real delicately because of the history of ADOS, law enforcement, and white people in this country, right? So it was verified. He said it was verified through the U.S. Postal Inspector, but it wasn't. That wasn't the case. Nothing has been designated as suspicious, even though he said it was suspicious. Check out the link. It's just crazy. They even have to request through another police department because they don't have good ties with the postal inspector. There's bad blood between the agencies. So, I mean, it's so much going on here, with the main situation being wholesale corruption on the part of the white population. And I don't see enough people speaking up about this. We're going to move on now. Breonna Taylor, may you rest in peace. I hope these men get charged, get sent to jail for life. Okay? Second part, racial puberty. Let's talk about it. I mean, billions and billions of dollars, tens and billions of dollars going to Ukraine. Please go back to the Racial Puberty 14. Watch that Noam Chomsky video. Take days if you need to watch it. He explains it as world superpowers fighting, as it has been, over resources, white global superpowers, putting who in the middle? People of color around the world, as it has been. And we have ADOS living in squalor in this country. We have ADOS not being able to live in America by 2050. Again, COVID. We have zero wealth by 2050. COVID moving that at a more rapid pace. Now it might be 2040, 2035 because of COVID. And we're giving billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine still for people to die, to fight a war that will ultimately be won by Russia. Let's call it what it is. That's why you see these other nations, these other countries, predominantly people of color, not immediately siding with the U.S. because the U.S. does the same exact thing. Like I explained in my last video, what would the U.S. do if Russia gave Mexico rockets and said, come join this Russian Federation, which is essentially what the UN is, right? That's all it is. It's two global superpowers fighting with each other, and who's getting caught in between? People of color and these Ukrainians out here. And Ukrainians is getting shipped over here to America with a different welcoming party than other immigrants in the country, of course. And ADOS is going to have to deal with it. ADOS is going to have to deal with it. What does it say? ADOS is going to have to deal with it. And we're giving out billions when ADOS won't be able to live in this country, when trillions of reparations are owed to ADOS. Why is this going on? Who's voting for this? Well, it's interesting because, they talk about there's a consensus that the U.S. politics is broken, the Senate, the House, but the U.S. Senate overwhelmingly approves $40 billion in Ukraine aid. This was back in May. Unless it has to do with ADOS, it seems like the Senate, the House can agree on many, many, many things. So I don't want us to get tripped up, ADOS. Stand up. Don't support this war in Ukraine. Don't support the war. And I'm not saying Ukrainians ain't got to fight a right to fight for themselves. Do what you got to do. But ADOS people here need the funds that are going to you. We don't want to get caught up in these chickens coming home to roost, as Malcolm X said, because of white supremacy and greed on the part of the U.S. nation. But who the heart of the country? Black people. So let's continue to keep our eyes open, stay awake, not woke, stay awake to what's going on. And when these elections come up, in the next video, I'm gonna have drafts of documents, letters we can send to our officials to push for reparations. Okay, because we got elections coming up, and that's gonna be the next thing we talk about here. Okay, that's gonna be the next thing we're talking about here. So there is this website, ballotpedia.com, in which I highly recommend that you check it out, because it gives you very clear and standardized information about what's, like, you can preview your ballot essentially for what's coming up and do a little bit of research. And so something I'm going to do is generate resources, literature that we can send to our representatives, because local and state elections are arguably more important than the federal elections, to push for certain things. And so before I end Racial Puberty 15, if you in New York City or not in New York City, just know that in New York, we have elections coming up on the 23rd and on, I want to say the 8th of November of this year. And there are some ballot measures that are coming up. Obviously, you have to vote for your individuals in Congress, for the House, for the Senate. And we need to send letters to these people as November approaches to see where they stand on reparations, so that we can have a black block of voting, an ADOS block. I like black block because it's more alliteration, right? And so briefly, one of the more important things I think coming up on the New York State ballot is not necessarily this question, just an equitable city for all. Yes, vote for that, sure. Preamble is intended to guide city government in fulfilling its duties when it comes to past and continuing harms, and to reconstruct, revise, and reimagine our foundation, structures, and institutions and laws to promote justice and equity for all New Yorkers. Sandy Darity wrote this book, From Here to Equality. Get it, put it in your Amazon cart now, or go to your local black bookstore. And he talks about how New York wouldn't be New York, the capital of the world of what it is, the center, the economic center that it is, if it wasn't for cotton and the slave trade. All right, New York City wouldn't be what it is. They were even ready to secede from the Union because the banks were so tied. It was Sandy Darity said, he used the word impressive how closely New York City banks were tied to slavery. But you can even go beyond that. The book Harlem, I think by Jonathan Gill, talks about how black neighborhoods were undervalued, were charged more for rent. There's so much that can go into this, looking at the past and continuing harms, which brings us to climate change project. Yes, vote for this as well. We had hurricane, was Irene last year. Vote for the hurricane, the climate change projects. Yes, we need that as well. But the most important piece that you need to look out for on the ballot this November is this Racial Equity Office Plan and Commission Amendment. Vote yes for this. It's an amendment that will, what I don't like about this proposal, about what they're talking about here, is how they're going to use it for to improve racial equity and reduce or eliminate racial disparities. How are you going to do that without reparations? I mean, to me, the need for this commission is to solely push for ADOS reparations. The office would support city agencies in improving access to city services and programs for those people and communities who have been negatively affected by previous policies or actions, and collect and report data related to equity. We don't need no reports. We don't need no more data. No. And that's kind of the frustrating part about this commission is collect and report data. Sure, continue to do that. We got the data. Black people need reparations, or else we won't be able to live. We got the data, right? We talk about past policies and actions. We got the data. We don't need any more data about that. Sandy Darity wrote From Here to Equality. Pick it up. Trillions of dollars. I think it was up to the tune of some 10, maybe $15 trillion. We know what's needed, right? They talk about again, collection of data, measurement gaps and differences in well-being. We don't need no more of that. We got the data. And I think this is sort of the runaround. This is sort of the runaround, particularly by white liberals as well, about collecting data. We need more information. We got to gather Because then when money's just thrown at something, we say, oh, we threw money at it, and it is what it is. No, the data shows by 2050, Black ADOS will have zero wealth. What we need is reparations. The Office of Racial Equity would identify priority neighborhoods. ADOS! Priority neighborhood. What? Priority neighborhoods. We know what the priority neighborhoods are. Disparities in equity, health, socioeconomic burdens, or neighborhoods potentially be disproportionately impacted by future events that could exacerbate those disparities. I don't think anything else needs to be said, but apparently it does, because reparations haven't been had yet. This is the type of level that we need. As November approaches and we're collectively deciding who to vote for, we need to be sending letters to our representatives, asking them to use this commission. This is a perfect segue to really focus, create a task force for reparations for ADOS in New York City, right? The equity plan, the plan would also have data indicators, including neighborhood level metrics to measure the extent of progress on racial equity work, and shows the effect the work is having on well-being and disparities. We don't need no more data. We know what needs to happen in the ADOS community. This is the frustrating part. We don't need no more data on that piece. But please, as New York City, as we're getting ready to vote, the next racial puberty video, I promise I'm going to have a little template that you can make a copy of in Google Docs. Send the email, send it to your local representative, the New York State House, your local representative, and the New York State Senate. And we're going to push for this for the upcoming November. We're going to push ADOS. Racial Puberty 15. That's all I had to talk about. Wholesale mass corruption on the part of the whites. Breonna Taylor, showing that, being a case study to show the corruption and how false information is even used in that situation. Talked again about Ukraine. The racism in this country cost, over the last 2 decades, nearly $20 trillion, yet we have money to send to Ukraine. We have people living in third world conditions, and I don't like to use that term, third world conditions down south, ADOS, getting hookworms, don't even have clean water, yet we got billions to send to Ukraine. And the ballot of the bullet, it's going to be the ballot this November, but we're going to make the demands, right? Even if you're not in New York City, Ballotpedia, real good website to use, really good website to use, right? Racial Puberty 15, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember, the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. Until next time, y'all.